Hey there YouTube lovers, my name is BB8 and today I am going to review the Plucky Squire as the official debut of the BB8's House Reviews Indies category. I didn't really expect to end off 2024 of BB8's House Reviews with the debut of a new category, but unfortunately the Plucky Squire is the only review in 2024 I have room for, and I don't oftenly review indie games on my channel, but now with the BB8's House Reviews Indies category, I'm hoping to expand my horizon by giving some indie games a chance of being reviewed, and the Plucky Squire is the perfect contender for BB8's House Reviews Indies, since it did look convincing from the trailers. And with the game being on PlayStation Plus at launch, I gave it a play, and what did I think of the game? You're about to find out. So, without further ado, let's get into it, shall we? For the gameplay in the Plucky Squire has a great mix of both 2D and 3D environments to go through. The 2D environments take place in a fictional book called The Plucky Squire, where our main character, Jot, lives. The ability to switch to 2D and 3D is gained after Grump, the main villain of the game, uses his magic to kick Jot out of the storybook where he enters the real world, which is just the bedroom of Sam, the human who owns the Plucky Squire book that Jot lives in. To travel between worlds, Jot can use green portals, but you can only gain access to them in particular situations. And I really like how creative the 2D sections outside of the Plucky Squire book are used, such as the line of flags, which Jot can use to travel to the other side of the room, going inside a playing card to have like an RPG style battle, a boxing match with a badger, and going around the art of a lunchbox shooting enemies. And the one thing I really love about the puzzle design as well is the creative use of the words shown in the Plucky Squire book, since when solving puzzles you can find verbs and adjectives which you can use to change the appearance and behaviors of certain objects, such as the size of a frog if the river is drained or full, and the time of day as well, which you can swap around freely to solve puzzles. But there is a restriction to this, because if the sentence doesn't go well together, that sentence will likely reject the word. For the graphics and the performance, the visuals in the Plucky Squire are creative because it has a perfect blend of 2D and 3D elements. Inside the book, the 2D art is well animated and feels like a storybook when playing through those sections. Outside of the book, the 3D elements are clay doll-like, just like The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening and Echoes of Wisdom, which is a solid choice for the art style because it adds life to the real-world environment of Sam's bedroom, such as the posters, toys, and surfaces that you can travel through, and the contrast between both the 2D and 3D perspectives of the Plucky Squire creates an experience that's visually dynamic, and that is what makes the Plucky Squire interesting. And on the technical side of things, the Plucky Squire on PlayStation 5 performs as you'd expect it to. I haven't tried out the Switch version, so I wasn't able to talk about it in my review, but the game runs at a steady frame rate with smooth transitions between pages of the Plucky Squire book, as well as the 2D, 3D environments. I've only witnessed one bug playing the Plucky Squire, and that is when the transition between one page to another took too long to load. And I can definitely say for now that a lot of care was put into the development of Plucky Squire, and the creative visuals show that. For the characters, the Plucky Squire has a fun and creative cast of characters that complement the story and the gameplay quite well. Starting off with the titular character, Jot, who does lead the game, and when Grump sends him outside of the storybook, Jot has to go on a journey to stop Humgrump from altering the story of the Plucky Squire. Jot is joined by two others, Violet, who is a trainee witch with a passion for art, and Thrash, a mountain troll who is a heavy drummer. My biggest complaint with these two characters is that they follow Jot around the storybook, but can't join him in the real world. But Thrash, however, he does join Jot in some of the boss battles, and he is playable in a rhythm minigame. They are still fun characters. I just don't think Violet and Thrash are that well utilized. Only because they don't really have that much to do in terms of the gameplay or the story. Moonbeard, who is a DJ sorcerer, combined his music passion with his magic, which makes him stand out to me. And I feel like Moonbeard, out of all characters in the game, is the best utilized. And Humgrump, who's the main villain of the game, whose goal is to manipulate the story of the Plucky Squire book by banishing Jot from the book, making him more important to the story as a villain. And even if some of the characters like Violet and Thrash feel a little underutilized, that didn't stop the Plucky Squire from having a fun cast of characters to play around with. And finally, for the story, the Plucky Squire has a fun story which does blend classic storybook style storytelling with a few unique twists in there as well. The story is about Jot, the titular Plucky Squire, whose life has a turnaround when Humgrump, the main villain, decides to rewrite the story of the Plucky Squire with the goal to make himself the hero of the book. With this, Jot needs to go on a journey to stop Humgrump from rewriting the story with the help of Violet and Thrash. And while I do think the story is decently paced, that doesn't mean that I don't have flaws with the plot. Towards the end of the game, Jot is stripped away of all of his abilities and has to go through a boring stealth section to get his abilities back. Think about Metroid, but if Samus had all of her abilities stripped away before the final boss, and you have to get them back. I don't know why, but in my opinion, the stealth sections were the worst part of the Plucky Squire for me. I don't mind stealth in other games, it just wasn't well executed in the Plucky Squire. And what didn't help with the final act is that all the colour is stripped away, which made the final act more dull than it already is. And while I didn't think the Plucky Squire had a bad story, I just think the third act sucked, which is a shame because this is the biggest flaw of the whole game for me. The Plucky Squire, as the first title to be reviewed in the BB8's House Reviews Indies category, has a great blend of 2D and 3D gameplay that feels fresh, especially with the creative puzzles that keep me engaged throughout the entire game's runtime. The creative visuals and art style brings Sam's bedroom and the storybook to life, bringing a well-balanced contrast that adds to the overall experience. However, the Plucky Squire is not perfect since characters like Violet and Thrash feel underutilized, and the third act struggling to get me through to the end of the game, and since the stealth sections were poorly implemented. Despite its flaws, the Plucky Squire is a great example of an indie game showing how creative an indie game can be, and that is why I give the Plucky Squire the collector perk. And overall, I give the Plucky Squire an 8 out of 10. The Plucky Squire is a fun and creative game thanks to its great blend of 2D and 3D gameplay, as well as the visuals. And while the final act sucked and felt lifeless, the game's charm and creativity make the Plucky Squire worth the play. And that's it for my review of the Plucky Squire. And I'm not going straight to the outro from here, only because I am going to do the 4th annual BB8's House Game of the Year ceremony. And for you guys who haven't been around on the channel for that long, every year on either the first or last review of the year, I do the Game of the Year ceremony, where I reveal my 5 favourite games of the year. For reference, I've previously done Game of the Year ceremonies in my reviews of Metroid Dread, God of War Ragnarok, and Marvel Spider-Man 2. This year, I'm doing it in my review of the Plucky Squire, but only what I've played is included here. So Persona 3 Reload is not included if anyone asks. I didn't initially plan to do this with my review of the Plucky Squire, but it needed to go somewhere, so let's do it. Alright, in 5th place, we have the Plucky Squire. The Plucky Squire was a really creative game, but sadly, the final act held it back from Certified Gold. In 4th place, we have The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. Another great 2D Zelda game, even if it's not at the heights of A Link to the Past or A Link Between Worlds. Echoes of Wisdom was still a really fun game. In 3rd place, we have Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door. This remake was a well worth return to form for the Paper Mario franchise, and while still keeping the gameplay of the original. In 2nd place, we have Sonic Cross Shadow Generations. As a Shadow fan, Sonic Cross Shadow Generations did not disappoint. With 2 campaigns in one, the package that Sega had provided to us was well worth it. And for 1st place, the winner of the BB8's House Game of the Year 2024 is Astrobot. Yep, the Game Awards Game of the Year shares the BB8's House Game of the Year thanks to its creative level design and overall being a fun game to play and worthy of winning the BB8's House Game of the Year. And now, before we end the video, I am going to share my BB8's House Reviews year in review. This is the first time I'm doing this, but this is a recap of all 33 BB8's House Reviews videos that I've done in 2024, with all the scores I've given out to each thing this year will all be added up to the ultimate score. And this is what I'm going to do every year from now on during my last review of the year. The editing or the resolution may not be the best, but it's the best I can do to make a scrolling credits-like sequence. But if you want to skip over it, that's fine. But here is my BB8's House Reviews year in review for 2024. And the overall score of 2024 is 78 out of 100. 2024 has not been a bad year for BB8's House Reviews, with 7 of the 33 review videos being awarded the certified gold perk, with only 3 of them releasing in 2024, unlike the 5 releases from last year that were awarded certified gold, and only 1 had been awarded the void perk this year, that being the Borderlands movie. And even though 2024 was handed out the lowest rated thing I've ever reviewed, with the Borderlands movie, which scored a 2 out of 10, it wasn't a bad year for BB8's House Reviews. But hopefully 2025 will end off with a score higher than 78. So guys, what did you think of my last review of 2024 being the Plucky Squire? This is my final review until after my break, because I will be recording 2 reviews in advance before I go on my trip, that being Sonic Movie 3 and Mario and Luigi Brothership. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and turn your notification bell on so you don't miss another review video like this one in the future. And I will see you all in 2025. BB8 out.